Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. A Farmington Hills, Michigan man has been charged with shooting and killing a bouncer at Dooley's Tavern. Now, in this incident, 25-year-old Michael Deshawn Altman Tucker has been charged with second-degree murder, assault with intent to murder, and felony firearm violations for allegedly shooting and killing a 36-year-old bouncer at Dooley's Tavern in Michigan. Now, the police are seeing this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged behaviors of Michael Deshawn Altman Tucker, they fit right in line with the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And one of the most dangerous combinations you could have are beta males and alcohol. Now, your beta male by nature is not a critical thinker, and when a beta male drinks alcohol, what happens is they lower their inhibitions. So you have a man who oftentimes feels instead of thinks and acts on impulses, and once he drinks alcohol and lowers his inhibitions, that makes him act even more impulsively. That's why having a beta male who drinks alcohol is a recipe for disaster, because basically what you're doing is putting fire on gasoline. And when you put fire on gasoline, it basically makes that gasoline explode. And that's what happened here with your Michael Deshawn Altman Tucker. You had a beta male who was drinking alcohol and his inhibitions were lowered, and that made him think that he could go to this bar and then brandish a firearm in front of people. And because he thought he could brandish this firearm in front of people, he thought he was being so-called cool by trying to impress people by showing off this gun. However, what he was doing actually was terrifying those people, because most of those people didn't know what this man was going to do with that loaded firearm. Now that he had had a few drinks, his inhibitions were lowered and he would be acting on impulse. So the people at the bar decided to ask the bouncers to go get this guy to leave, and there was some sort of confrontation as they were trying to eject this man from the bar. And as they were trying to eject this man from the bar, he pulled out this firearm and then wound up taking the life of a 36-year-old bouncer. And this is the kind of action that your beta male winds up getting himself into once he's had some alcohol in his system. He goes out here, he has a few drinks, gets his inhibitions lowered, acts on his impulses, and then what happens is that somebody possibly winds up losing their life, because this man wouldn't have gone out here, I believe, and lost his life had this beta male not been there with that firearm, using it as an attachment in an effort to try to impress people. Because one of the reasons why beta males like this love to go to bars and places with loaded firearms is because they think it's going to impress the women, but what it does is show how much of a fool this guy actually is. Because no critical thinking man is going to go into a bar or any establishment with a loaded weapon. No, if he goes into those establishments, that's basically sending out a message to everyone that he's not a bad boy like he thinks he is. It says that he's dangerous because he's not somebody who thinks critically as related to things. Now, because this Michael Deshawn Altman Tucker did not think critically, he wound up taking the life of a 36-year-old bouncer, a man who had 4 kids, a man who had just bought a home, and a man who was trying to take care of his family. So a family lost its patriarch, and it's lost its ability to go out here and be taken care of by the father, and the 4 children have lost their father, all because this beta male was in his feelings about being ejected from a bar. And because this beta male was in his feelings about being ejected from a bar, he thought he was justified in taking another man's life. That's what's really disturbing about this whole situation is he thought, oh, because his pride was wounded, it was his right to go out here and take somebody's life. And that's what a lot of beta males think that they have a right to do, that they have a right to take somebody's life because their pride is wounded. But it's their actions that cause these situations because many of these men, again, they feel, they do not think, and because they feel, they go out here and do things that lead to them winding up in situations where they put other people's lives in jeopardy. Now, in addition to this man losing his life, this Dooley's Tavern is going to be going out of business because this is the second incident where somebody has lost their life as a result of a dysfunctional individual going out here and using a firearm to take somebody's life. So, in addition to a family losing its father, a business is going out of business, and this is all that happens whenever you have a beta male in some place. They lead to the destruction of all of the lives of other people around them. And they also lead to the destruction of their own lives because in the aftermath of this alleged incident, if your Michael Deshaun Altman Tucker is prosecuted on the second-degree murder charge and the assault with intent to murder and a felony firearm charge, he is going to possibly wind up going to prison for the rest of his life. And that's something that this beta male was not really thinking about critically when he was at the bar with that gun. No, what he was thinking about was he was going to impress all the ladies, and they were going to see how much of a bad boy he was, and that's all he was thinking about until he had to deal with the consequences of his actions. And now, instead of him seeing all the ladies who he thought would be impressed by his little display, he's on his way to seeing Bubba and Tiny in the penitentiary, and they probably are going to be impressed as they turn that tight end into a wide receiver. And as they are trying to turn that tight end into a wide receiver, and they are out here trading that booty for some Little Debbie snack cakes, some ramen noodles, some cups of coffee, and cans of Dr. Pepper and Fritos chips, your Michael Deshaun Altman Tucker, maybe it will register in his mind that him going out here and brandishing this firearm in a crowded bar was not the smartest thing to do. Because a lot of these beta males, they never really think critically about things. No, they go out here and act on impulse and then have to deal with the consequences of their actions. Now, if your Michael Deshaun Tucker had been a more responsible drinker, he would have, one, not brought that firearm into a bar, and two, he would not have taken so many drinks that he would have lowered his inhibitions. Any critical thinking man who drinks alcohol understands that you can drink and not get drunk, and they know that they need to watch themselves when they are in places like bars, because any little incident can lead to something turning into a very violent situation. Unfortunately, this male was not really a good critical thinker, and as a result, he got bounced from the bar. And because he did not have good male life skills, he didn't understand that if you get ejected from the bar, what you do is you dust yourself off, charge it to the game, and keep it moving. Unfortunately, your beta males like this don't really understand how to take an L, and because they don't understand how to take an L, they wind up getting emotional and losing it, and they're looking to go out here and fight. And when they can't fight, what they do is pull out their 9mm of courage, and as they pull out that 9mm of courage, they look to go out here and have that weapon hit people in the way they can't hit people, with fists. And that's what these kind of guys do, because they really, again, do not really think about their actions, and they act impulsively on their feelings. So that's what makes these guys very dangerous even without alcohol. And when you start to add alcohol to the mix as related to a beta male, you get a combination that is very dangerous. And when you add a loaded firearm to that combination, you get a combination that is practically nuclear as related to the situation. Now, I believe that the bar owners and the staff should not have confronted this individual, but I understand why they confronted this individual, because he was a clear and present danger. But it was possibly the best thing to let law enforcement come deal with this individual, because the only people who can deal with this type of beta male are law enforcement, because law enforcement has the firepower to deal with these kinds of individuals and the firepower to deal with these kinds of situations. So when I look at this whole incident, there was probably a mistake in having the bouncers deal with him. Maybe they should have had the police deal with him from minute one, because when you see a guy in a bar with a loaded firearm and have it there in the bar, the first thing you need to do is call the police, because when you have a guy with a firearm, you don't have your bouncers go deal with him. You just keep watching him and seeing what he's doing until law enforcement gets there, and then you let law enforcement deal with this individual, and then you let law enforcement take this individual out of your premises. That's the only way you can deal with this kind of individual, because they're not going to respect the authority of another man, which is another problem that beta males have when they're confronted by other men. But if they are confronted by police, there's possibly a reason for them to give pause. But that's just me, again, looking at this from a criminal perspective. And I really, when I look at this situation again, it's one that's really sad, because this was a situation where a man lost his life all because a male did not know how to be responsible, or how to be responsible in a social situation with other people due to the dysfunctional way he was raised, possibly in a single mother household, because only guys from single mother households will go out here and think, oh, I'll take a loaded weapon to a bar to impress the ladies, and not understand that there's consequences to actions, and that when you go out here and you're having this weapon, it's just basically scaring people, and it's scaring people to the point where they're seeing you as a clear and present danger. So I look at this whole situation and I see another, again, textbook beta male who is a man in crisis, and this man in crisis wound up putting other people's lives in jeopardy with his reckless and egregious behavior. Now, if you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behaviors of beta males and why they go out here and act in this dysfunctional fashion, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBook store, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. You think you've seen scares? Get ready for the horror of the Hyena Woman.